Why do some players excel and others do not? Why do some young golfers get the ball into the hole so easily, and for others it's a constant struggle? Is it all technique, or is there something else? By design, we're capable of entering the zone at any time. Then why aren't we in that magical state more often? Why do some people think so clearly and perform so proficiently, while others work so hard doing all the right things, yet seldom enter that state of ease and truly great performance? In the next few minutes, you'll hear from some of the world's top golfers and developmental experts answer these questions. You may be surprised how simple, if not easy, these answers really are. You'll learn what you can do, or perhaps not do, as a parent or coach to apply the basic fundamentals that make great performers truly great, and ways to ensure that your young players become all that they can be on and off the golf course. You are about to discover the intelligence of play.
Okay. What'd you get, David?
That's the real secret, is the love of the game and wanting to be the best you can be. If you love it, you'll always beat the person that wants it for power and glory and money.
I learned to find a peace on the golf course at a young age, and I think that's what has helped me to do as well as I have, because I don't let things bother me out there, because my dad always said it's only a game and you want to enjoy it.
When I would come down in the morning, that little guy, when he was just almost 3½, had his golf clubs laying right next to mine, telling Dad, hey, if there's room for one more, I'd sure like to come.
Well, I think you gotta let the kids play. You know, I don't think you need to teach them the interlock grip when they're 5 years old, and I don't think you need to teach them the flop shot. You know, I have a 6-year-old, and I just tee him up in the fairway and let her hit at him.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Whiplash Central. Here we go. Oh.
We can learn anything. That's the miracle of being human. It may take some longer than others, but crammed into this brain of ours is a vast, unlimited capacity to learn. Yet most of us barely scratch the surface. Some say as little as 5%. So what's holding us back? We all want to perform at our highest level, but the part that tries to figure out how is the same part that gets in the way. What if we could get out of our own way and allow the full potential of our magnificent brain and body to perform without interference? What if all that's necessary is to play, to just play the game? Could it be that real genius, creativity, and the key to truly great performance is as easy as child's play? Let's find out.
Grace, how's this one go? He goes in, she says. Does that look good to you?
No.
Which way?
Right there.
Okay. Very good. Come on, Tommy, let's get serious and make this putt. It's really funny when the ball gets on the ground, everybody goes, dink, dink, but you throw it up in the air. They know they got nothing to stop them. Kablooey! Grace, you're up. All right, Tommy. All right. Yes! Chardonnay! Ooh, that hurts. Next time you see a tour pro miss one of those and look at his putter like, I can't, 6-year-old made it with a baseball bat.
Sports is one thing, but nurturing children and allowing them to access the parts of the brain that we haven't been able to access is what this whole thing is about. Because if we can do that, the possibilities are endless.
Too often people, starting at an early age, get wrapped up into learning how to swing a golf club. instead of learning how to play. Learning how to play golf is just getting yourself and a golf ball when you're a kid out in the golf course, by yourself usually, and just being imaginative, being creative. That carries through all your life long. And it's what's missing in a lot of players on the Pro Tours game today is they have never really learned how to play golf.
Real playing is how real learning takes place. You can have conditioning, kind of Pavlovian conditioning of his dogs or behavior modifications through other means, which we look on as very serious, and which we generally call learning, but it's not learning, it's conditioning. Real learning takes place by what Maria Montessori would call the absorbent mind of the child, simply absorbing their universe, absorbing it, becoming it, and they do this through play.
The basic concept is fun. It's like the Kenyan runners, their basic principle in life and running is run every day, so you want to run the next day. So it's fun, so you look forward to the next day of running. That's the basic concept, and that's why they do so well. The Tarahumara Indians who run 75 to 150 miles a day, they kick a little ball the whole way. When they do it in a fun way, the physiological experience is calm and composure and not stress in the midst of all this activity. 150 miles in a day is like a lot of activity. But their experience is internally composure and calm. That's that eye of the hurricane I'm talking about.
I don't know Michael Jordan well, but I've heard him a few times speak very strongly about, I do this for the fun. I do this for the enjoyment. And people can say, you know, poo-poo it and say he's doing it for the money or he's doing it for the fame. And I look at him and I say he takes advantage of those things. He doesn't turn down the money, but it looks to me like he's having fun.
And the strongest energy in the world is love. And if you're doing it because you love to do it, you got a chance to hook onto a clear channel. I call it clear channel. If you hook onto that clear channel energy, you become energized, your brain is alert, your body feels strong, your intuitions are there, you have clear thinking, you can be the most that you can be.
Play is that state when mind and body are completely open, unconcerned with good and bad, winning or losing. It occurs naturally when our brain isn't busy judging, analyzing, or filtering the do's and the don'ts. In play, all things are possible. There is no prejudgment before a shot takes place. Judgments are made only after we see the outcome. We interact with the ball and the target, which activates a vast intelligence and makes subtle adjustments in our whole body, moving us closer to our goal without effort. Being in this state is so enormously fun and captivating that there's no attention left for anything else. It's what keeps bringing us back. Athletes call it the zone. The business community calls it flow. Real play is where learning expands infinitely, and this is what we mean by the intelligence of play.
Oh, great shot. Give me 5 on that. Great shot there. Good one. Hey, good one, Heidi. Oh yeah, it's on the green.
It's out of here. It's home run, thank you, yes. See, you're allowed to do, now in golf you're allowed to do the same thing. We call it our strut.
Yes, I love hitting it in the fairway, yes, yes.
You're up first, Chad, now let's see you rip it.
Oh. Yeah!
All right, now let's see it.
Yeah! Yeah!
Yeah. I had a good shot. I had a good shot.
Ashley Montague's definition of health in growing young is the ability to work, the ability to love, the ability to play, and the ability to think soundly. And I think what we are good at doing is one of those. I think we know how to work. And I think the Japanese know how to work. I think we know how to work in first world culture, but I think we've lost the ability to play, the ability to love, and the ability to think soundly. Because you can't think soundly if you lose your sense of play. Your creative prowess is zapped. It's gone.
Excelling is important, it's crucial, but it's not as important as how you play the game, how you live your life. This tremendous possibility we have to surrender to this greater being that's trying to emerge in us. It's like our higher self, our greater self, is like this giant that's chained, you know? And we're all like the Lilliputians who have chained the Gulliver in us down. And in sport, Gulliver gets loose for a few minutes, you see. It's a deep, involuntary, constant, irreversible drive to play.
You know, we can live in the Arctic, we can live in the tropics. We can live solo, we can live in groups. We can have a harem, we can be monogamous. There are tremendous variations, but at the core of our variation is our playful nature. Thomas Berry, who's one of my heroes, says that if we don't live according to our design, we aren't going to make it. And our design is to live playfully. We are a playful species, regardless of whether we're 60 or 6 months.
Play provides a way for humans to slide between the categories within which we live. And in that time space, we're not members of those categories. And it's almost as if in that space, in that time space, we aren't men, women, white, black, Americans, South Africans, and so on. And that's a genius that creation gave us. Now, we've taken most of the genius and crimped it, making our little boxes. This play still, in the cultural sense, means that it's the not serious stuff. It's the time left over. So games, play, entertainment, those are the things that we call play in the culture. And they provide us, at least on the surface, what we think of as ways of being where we don't have to be so constrained about our activity. We're allowed to be more free. That's what we think. I mean, that was the intent, I think, in that part of cultural play. The problem is that very early on, when those play activities also become encompassed by the cultural idea of competition, there you go again. I mean, the play becomes the same activity as going to law school or mathematics and physics and the other subjects in the school.
So long as we remember when we use the word play, we're talking about nature's means for learning. So when we say the child not played with cannot learn to play, in effect, the child's learning is seriously impaired. So later on, when they're exhibiting all these extremely violent behaviors and so on, we can say that they did not learn. By learning, we mean opening and developing higher cortical structures which can moderate or modulate the lower evolutionary structures of the brain. Just that simple. That just didn't happen with them because they weren't played with. Play didn't take place. Play being the learning, and the learning being the opening of those blocks of intelligences which are literally genetically encoded in these particular topographical areas of the brain in their respective order as they appear on the evolutionary scene. This doesn't happen. And then we turn around and condemn these people for moral, ethical failure, when really we're simply looking at very, very pragmatic, very common sense kind of biological failure. Just as if you don't water a plant, the thing isn't going to grow. Or we're not watering that intelligence at the appropriate period, and it can't grow.
Pros don't really play a lot, but what we do is we kind of hit trick shots. It's kind of our sad substitute for play. You know, like from water bottles and stuff. Tee it up there. All right. Well, you line up your club to the ball and then just make sure you hit the ball. That's a nice swing. That's real golf. We're not going to do that today. You walk up, you look down the fairway somewhere, put the club down, you look up one more time, you take a couple of waggles, and you just hit it hard.
All great players will tell you about thousands of hours of play as youngsters. As a boy, I remember that every shot was going to be spectacular. Deep, absorbent, genuine play and deep, absorbent learning are one and the same. When the human brain is safe and open, it's a learning machine of such magnitude that it's incomprehensible by our intellect. In the play state, potentials are building at a phenomenal rate. Even though these potentials may not mature for years, even many years after the foundations are laid deep in our imagination. Play is how the system works when it's working at its best. Genius is packed into every cell of our body. If play is where the potentials of our genius are realized, then why do so few of us reach as high as we could? Why isn't every game our best game? What's keeping us and our children from being all we can be?
How about that one, folks? He's seen this on TV 1,000 times, the way the pros walk up halfway, look at the distance. Team player. Question is, folks, did he hit it? Did he hit it? Oh, yeah, get in the hole.
And in our attempt to make all this better by getting them inside and a referee, we took away everything that was good about it. Instead of them calling their own fouls and getting in a fight and working it out. Instead of them having a captain and picking the worst one on the team or figuring out their teams. Now they got jerseys and the parents yell and the kid freezes and it's no fun and they cry after the game.
It was a Lewis Harris poll that showed that 50% of American kids experienced their first major failure in life as a sports failure. You know, when you can't climb the ropes, that's a public event, and that can humiliate you for the rest of your life.
There's just a lot of pressure that are put on these kids, either by their own peers or by the coaches. And so I think that it's a real scary thing for them. And if they're humiliated right off the bat, it's always going to be a very scary feeling for them because they're going to be worried about the next time. Are they going to get yelled at again, or are they going to be made fun of again, and they're going to be made the big joke of the whole thing?
I know my little girl at 7 years old and 6 years old playing some team sports almost didn't want to go because she didn't want to be embarrassed if she didn't hit the ball or if she didn't catch the ball.
I think if people get uptight because they are afraid of failing, they're afraid of being criticized for not coming through, they're afraid of what folks are going to say if they miss a 3-foot putt in the last hole to lose, or, you know, all those kind of negative things just, you know, create this feeling of fear and tension, and you can't perform your best.
You don't have to go to very many Little League games to see the parents out in the middle of the diamond beating each other up over a call, or a basketball game where they want to kill a ump because of a bad call and so on and so forth. Parents out there in the middle of the playing field screaming at each other, screaming at the kids, "Why didn't you win?" As if the child didn't want to win, and on and on and on. Kids always wanted to play. They always got together. They always got together in sand lots and formed their groups and worked out their own rules and all that. Now we've intervened in adults and say, no. We'll work out the rules for you, and we'll do all that for you. It's just kind of crazy how this organized thing has gone.
I just the other day had an example of a parent with their child in a little league, and the coach raving at them. These were 7- and 8-year-olds, and the coach, a great big, of course, coach type, railing at them, calling them dumbbells and imbeciles, and urging them to get in there and really put their all into it and so forth, and the confusion, the utter confusion in the little children, and their feeling of shame and guilt and failure and so on. And the parents all, you know, lining up on the side of the coach, so that the children were literally pilloried for failure to measure up to the expectations and standards of their coach. Now this is a very strange form of modeling for this child. These are their social models already condemning them, and they don't even know what for.
When people are watching us perform, if it's a tight game and this is the one shot that really matters, most of us get nervous. Fear creeps in. What will the others think of me if I win or lose? Now that's the big question, isn't it? We're afraid of what others may think. At that very instant, our attention splits between meeting that challenge and looking good. Self-defense always comes first. The greater the fear, the greater the energy that goes into that defense. And that split is what separates the truly great performers from the rest of us. Sure, there are outstanding athletes who compensate. Some use brute strength, others will and concentration. But the player in the audience can feel the strain and energy being drained away. When the pressure is on, the great athletes, the great dancers, the great anything, forget about themselves and meet the challenge completely with 100% of their energy and attention. And they get the job done with grace and great joy. Unconditional acceptance, regardless of the score, is the greatest gift we can give ourselves and to our children. We call it the zone, that magical state when doing our best flows like a summer breeze. In the zone, what will they think of me simply doesn't exist.
Swing and a miss. Oh, good thing. Stick, off the stick. Hit it again. I'm the goalkeeper. Oh, he gets it in on me.
Race up to the ball and we're going to hit it, so you got to keep moving the whole time. This is kind of like a miniature Happy Gilmore. Yeah! What do you mean not going to do good? That's awesome. Yeah! 1, 2, 3.
But we speak of concentration or entrainment, where all of the energy can focus on a particular activity so that we can learn it throughout our whole body. We know the whole body learns in all cases. But if part of us has to be on guard against being unsafe or open to censure, punishment, retribution, any of those things that we find in competition or adult ideas imposed, or even having to measure up to standards, then we cannot entrain, which means thought, feeling, and action, the 3 levels of the brain, can't entrain on a single activity. We're going to be thinking, well, I better do this. We're going to be feeling, I might not be able to, and I'll catch it. I'll be a failure. I'm a loser. I'll be punished. I'll be ostracized. And the body, which has its own wisdom, unable to integrate the energies it needs to go ahead and act accordingly. So we have we're a house divided against ourselves, and there's no health in us. There's no wholeness in us. As a result, no concentrated learning can take place.
And if the child is totally safe, as far as the child is concerned, what's the worst thing that can happen? Trick question here. The child thinks it's completely safe. As far as the child is concerned, nothing bad could happen. So then, the child is in this safe and bonded environment, okay? Or its matrix, its source, its home base. Now the child can go out into the world and experience the world and get scared, right? What's scared? Stress, right? As soon as the child gets stressed, it runs back. So there's always this dynamic, and this is why what we call, as adults, what we see children doing is we call that play. Right? So the child is going from the known to the unknown, experiencing stress, running back to the known. Can you see the little baby elephant? Where does it hang out? Okay? Runs out, whoo, runs back. Okay? This is what children do. Run out, whoo, run back. Right? Okay? Back and forth, from the known to the unknown, from the safe to the unsafe, from stress. Okay? What happens when you take away the safe place? Stress turns into anxiety.
The vascular system has a switch. It's like an A-B switch. In one side, the switch says we're in a growth mode. And then it says, oh, under certain signals we go into protection mode. But when it goes from growth to protection, growth stops. As we start to perceive the environment as being hostile, less than safe, less than loving, then the system will automatically, to protect its survival, that's what it's doing, will start to shift into more protection. The more chronic that belief system, the more chronic the protection. The more chronic the protection, the less growth.
Look at any program involving primates in the wild, and where do you see the infants? They're attached to the body of their mother, and they hang on for dear life as the mother's moving around all the time. Continuous body contact. And that should tell us a lesson, because that becomes the standard and the norm of what brings up responsible for healthy infants. And we, in fact, have demonstrated that experimentally in the laboratory by taking the infants away from their mothers, rearing them in cages by themselves. And as the animals grew older, they were sexually dysfunctional and they were pathologically violent.
I got a call from my chief of service, who was in Spain on vacation, saying that the governor had called him and he was putting me in charge of organizing an investigation to find out why this young man, who by then had been identified as Charles Whitman, had shot 31 people, killed 19 off the Texas Tower. What came out of the interviews again and again and again was that he had not engaged ever in spontaneous free play. He'd been an over-controlled, kind of humiliated kid, very bright, youngest Eagle Scout in the United States, altar boy, NROTC scholarship recipient. Within the next year, I headed a team that went throughout the Texas prison systems and the state hospital systems to interview all the young male murderers in the state of Texas, and the differences were absolutely striking. The murderers, whether they came from higher class economic circumstances or were psychotic and in a state hospital system having been criminally insane by their conviction or by their crime, play was still a common denominator in over 90% of these.
To bridge this back into our children. Well, in a very practical level in a round of golf. When a child walks off a round of golf, the first thing that they're asked is, what did you shoot? I played in over 300 golf tournaments by the time I was 21. I never walked off a golf course once. And anybody other than my parents ever asked me some very interesting questions. One might be, what kind of human being are you becoming through using sticks and balls? And maybe what's the purpose of it all? I never got that question. I thought the love and the way the love that I would receive was contingent somehow on what I shot. And my character and my score were related. And I've given 41,000 golf lessons, and not one person in all those years had ever had that completely separated.
I got on the pro tour and I didn't succeed right away, and my self-image got lower and lower, and my game was getting worse and worse too because of it. And as soon as I raised the self-image and kind of took the importance of golf and put it in its place, things just got a lot better.
One of the most amazing things I've ever witnessed or ever seen happened in a 10-year-old basketball game. And I think this is, well, what happened was I was keeping score for our team, for the game. And our team, which my son was on, went out and in a basketball game, they scored 15 baskets. And the other team scored 2 baskets. And it was a whitewash. I mean, our team was just throwing the ball in and layups back and forth, and their team rarely had the ball, and they rarely scored. So the buzzer went off for the first half. Kids come charging over to me, and the coach is giving them a high five, way to go, and the kids come up to me and they say, Mr. Jacobson, what's the score? And I said, well, it's 30-4. And they said, who's winning? Now, if you think about that, it was obvious to everybody who was winning. The coaches, the parents, because they were scoring so many baskets here and none there. But if you stop and think about the children, Score had meant nothing to them. They were playing the game. And when that happened, I thought to myself, wow, if there is ever a reason to not keep score in these games, it's this comment by this one child who said, "Who's winning?" Because he didn't know. He was playing a game.
If I, as a parent, want my kid to be really good at some sport, well, by golly, I want them to be playing it as early as possible so they can really develop their gifts. So, you know, you go to the soccer field, you know, with the preschool league, please meet on the midget field, and the kindergartners, you know, meet over on field number 2, and we've taken that original playtime and organized into zero-sum games with winners and losers. And I have had the experience as a parent with my kids wanting to play soccer and seeing my second-grade daughter out there playing soccer. And she's a wonderful soccer player. And the game's over, and they lose the game. And I say, "Jordan, wow, you did a great job. You kicked that ball. I couldn't believe it. Whoa, that was really neat." "Ah, it doesn't matter. We lost." There's so much going on in terms of the culture that's so focused on the winning and losing aspect that you know, kids are sucked into it. There's this great sucking sound. Competition is, you know, that's going to help kids have a head start. And you got to be able to compete. And so what we teach kids how to do, we teach kids how to compete. They knew how to cooperate, but they have to be taught how to compete. And guess what they forget to do? They forget about the cooperation piece.
In preschool, talk to young children, and there's a little squabble over a truck, we will, as adults, interfere and say it's important to be kind and share your truck. Well, we don't say that with companies. We don't say that with teams, that it's would be nice to share the Stanley Cup with the other team. It would be nice to share markets between Coke and Pepsi. No. But somewhere along the line there, it changes from sharing to not sharing. And we aren't honest with children and say, "Remember those sharing I told you about at preschool? Well, now at first grade, we don't do that anymore. Now it's just winning. Forget the sharing stuff."
So you have just these two possibilities. The child, given the safe environment, emotional nurturing, the emotional safe space, where they don't have to defend themselves against their world, can embrace that world, which means it'll be a constant expansion of potential, capacity, possibility from lower intelligences into higher and higher intelligences. The child denied that emotional nurturing or the safe space, the exact opposite will happen. The higher intelligences will be curtailed, they'll be impaired, constrained, and used only on behalf of the lower.
Okay, how are we doing so far? We've discovered that the state we call real play is the most incredible, dynamic learning environment possible. It's the place where our dreams really do come true. But most of us stop playing about the 4th grade, turning art and recess and our dreams into serious work. We've been deeply conditioned to think that play is a waste of time, when nothing could be further from the truth. We've learned that fear of what others may think cripples our potential through comparison, fear of failure, or embarrassment. I have seen doctors, lawyers, and successful business leaders, not to mention plenty of tour players, brought to their knees by fears they learned as children. You and I can change this right now in ourselves and in our children. And that's really the point, isn't it? Being free to become all we can be on and off the golf course. Let's find out what we can do to eliminate the resistance and free the champions we know deep inside that we all can be.
Of course, my father. He's the core, he's the man that was able to put me out on a football field to make me reach the goals that I wanted to. And of course, my mother that's looking down on us now, God rest her soul, she is the greatest lady, the greatest mother a son could ever wish for.
My mom, she's a really special person to me.
she kind of molded me a little bit, and, she kept us in line a little bit. And I just want you to know that, she's very, very, very special to me, and I love her a lot. I love them both for the unique things that and the values they gave me.
Of course, my father, who, as every kid who's sitting over here can say that, your father drives you to the games and takes you to those morning practices, as we're doing now as parents.
I couldn't have asked for a better mom and dad, a better wife. Number one, a better wife. She put up with everything. I mean, and it was a lot.
My dad, a lot of people haven't seen him before. This is my dad, Frank Winfield. I get a lot, and he came all the way from California, and I appreciate it, Dad. I just appreciate everything.
It was never anything negative. In my upbringing, it was always champ, nice going champ, and if I hit it bad, let's see what you can do on the next one. It was never dwelling on the negative. It was always dwelling on the positive, always positive. He instilled the affirmation that there's no affirmation stronger than a father's affirmation that you are going to succeed.
He was never negative, and neither was my mom. Everything was positive, and if there was something bad that happened, they'd find something good to say about it. And I just think a lot of parents just don't do that because, like I said, the parents are their hero. And I just think it's so important for the parents to realize that.
When he would come to watch me play, he would never be there to say, okay, now remember when you're batting to drop your right elbow. I mean, he was never, and there were dads all around me that were like that would come to the dugout or come to the bench and, give their sons a little deal. And my dad was never like that. And there were times that I thought, why isn't my dad like that? All the other dads are.
As a parent, we show the world how adequate we are as parents through the performance of our children. We focus on their behavior, and their behavior is a reflection of our competency as parents. So the most important thing in the relationship between parent and child is the behavior of the child. That's why you see the bumper stickers that say, proud parent of honor roll student at Maplewood School, which is really a statement that's saying, I am an adequate parent. And then the joke on those is, my kid beat up your honor roll student, which is really saying, I'm adequate too. But you don't see bumper stickers like this. Proud parent, regardless of their grades, my kids have an A in my book. The reason we don't see bumper stickers like this is people aren't paying attention to affirming their child, regardless of whether or not they clean their room, regardless of whether or not they mow their lawn, regardless of whether or not they show the world how great a job they're doing because their kid got on the honor roll.
Even though my dad really wanted me to play golf, he kept his mouth shut. I mean, and I don't know what it is, a father-daughter or whatever, but the more your father wants you to play, the more you kind of revert and say, I don't want to play, He kept his mouth shut and let me play when I wanted to play.
My dad was great at teaching me to learn from my mistakes and pick out the good out of any round, no matter what it was. If I was 10 years old and I shot 95, he'd say, but on number 4, you hit 2 beautiful shots, and on number 16, you hit 2 beautiful shots. And if we can just get you to do that a couple more times around, all the way up to when I was winning tournaments, he was teaching me to get the good out of it and learn from the bad rather than criticizing, all right, you really did bad on those 2 holes. You really messed up. You shouldn't have been thinking that way. You shouldn't have been walking fast. He would take the positive out, show it to me, and then show me, all right, here's how you fix what didn't work.
Well, my dad played golf, and he would take us out, and he'd hit shag balls, and we would retrieve them. And I think, if I could do anything over again, I would have him be more supportive to the point where I'd feel like it's okay to go out and make a mistake. I didn't want to come home from a basketball game and hear how I didn't do this or didn't do that. It'd be more fun to be able to go out and play and not worry about making mistakes because you didn't want to worry about getting, criticized when you got home. And, I always liked other kids who would go out and just play freely with no fear of making a mistake, and I'd say, man, I wish I could play like that. And so it wasn't until, I'd say, the last 3 or 4 years when I really kind of started to overcome, what it took all those years to build up. It's a tough barrier to overcome.
I know. Some of you may be thinking that we're talking about pie-in-the-sky stuff, that if we are simply kind to our children, they will automatically become world-class golfers. Or that if they have a good attitude, they can just look at the hole and the ball will go in by itself. Modeling the mechanics of great players is a tremendous asset, It means we don't have to reinvent the wheel for every new player. But while these technical components are being put into place, there is no reason to limit them with false fears and resistance. There's nothing hokey, mystical, or even mental about this. This is a matter of hard science. We can optimize learning and performance by bringing our behavior as parents and coaches in line with the biology of the human brain, mind and body. And it is much more a matter of getting out of the way than it is of introducing more stuff to do. How? By always treating ourselves and our children exactly as we would a best and most trusted friend. By modeling the change we would like to see rather than criticizing or pointing out the faults. The fact is, as individuals or as a culture, we have never really ever done this before. But what if we did, and for a generation or more, and just sat back and watched?
Okay.
What happens is, if you hit it right, the ball comes out with no spin and dead straight, just like out of a cannon. Step back and hit it hard. Whoa! All right, all you gotta do is just maul the cup and the ball come out. Here we go.
I'm not sure you want to drive a cart or play golf out here today.
Can we go now?
We sure can.
Another coach in another game told me a story about a young fellow who was just fractured at the plate. He was gripping the bat so hard he wanted to make this hit. There was a runner on third base. The game was on the line. Everyone was shouting, and he was just like a statue. And 2 pitches came by and 2 strikes, and the coach called timeout. And he went out there, and this again, a great learning moment, an opportunity to say, well, this is the hit, this is the most important swing of your life. Make it a good one, or get your cuts in, or do, you know what the coach said? He said, hey, just remember that after the game, no matter what happens, we're having pizza. That kid whacks the ball clear out of the infield. You know, they win the game. Well, if he'd missed the ball completely, he knew he was still having pizza, and you should have seen the grin on his face.
I tell students that coach comes from the old ancient English word coach, which was a vehicle, a carriage, that took royalty or very important people from where they were to where they wanted to go. And that's really what a coach is he tries to create a vehicle that will help you get where you're going, not where the coach is wanting you to go.
If the teacher can stay out of the way, keep out of the way, I think that's maybe the best thing he can do, and just allow him to do what he's going to do, and once in a while you're there. I've listened to some of the greatest lessons I've ever listened to were a word or two that made such huge changes, or thoughts, and we have all these computers and all this stuff that read out milliseconds of weight transfers and this, and boy, I'll tell you, you just say, give them a different thought and you'll change it like this. But boy, you start to get into a mechanical, won't change it a bit.
It's really to help the players to sort and differentiate between who they are and what they do. That no matter if they play the very best or the worst, they are still okay as human beings. It's not, and that takes a lot of training, and it's a lot how we who are around the players, how we act, because if the first question always asked is, what did you shoot, or how did you finish, we give the message the whole time that is what is most important.
To me, the challenge for any coach is to help kids, adults, see through, parents, see through, you could say, the invented meanings that have been attributed to winning and losing, and then create a meaning, maybe with the individual, that makes more sense.
It's their calling. It's what they love to do. They love to coach. They love to interact. They love to play. And they love to, they don't ever want to stop playing. But the key is not to lose that fun, that light, that happiness, that joy of your life in whatever the activity is. And a good coach and a good parent infuses that experience into every aspect of their child's life. And as an example, it has to be in their life. So a good coach and a good parent has to have and be a shining example of happiness and fun. And when they go out to the team, they're having, I mean, they are just having so much fun being a coach or being a parent that the kids just hug them and love them and squeeze them and just can't get enough of them because they love them so much. And we've all seen teachers like that or coaches like that where the kids, I mean, they just can't get enough of them. And it's not because the coach is like a nice guy or a nice gal or a coach or whatever. It's because the coach is having a blast.
Well, that's just about it. Or should I say, just the beginning. We have all the potential we could ever need or want. When we play, we forget ourselves and spectacular things happen. Spectacular is what we are. So why are we so surprised by being spectacular each and every day? When we begin with unconditional acceptance, we can create learning environments which are extremely dynamic and challenging. When we are safe enough to play, nothing is holding us back. We develop our highest potentials in safe relationships at play. It's as simple as that. Life. What a great game it is. It's a new day for each of us and for our kids. So keep playing and watch what happens.